Imagine falling in love and being completely devoted to that person, and then finding out that the one who you love the most wants to take your life. How would you feel? Something similar happened to a girl named Anne Boleyn almost 500 years ago, who was first begged by King Henry VIII for her love, and then was later executed by him when his love turned to hatred. Even though Anne Boleyn was such an important person in the 15th century, not much is known about her early years. In fact, no one knows the exact date or place where she was born. Historians have said her date of birth to be between 1500 and 1509. The place where she was born was never confirmed, but some say that it was probably at Blickling Hall in Norfolk, England. Anne spent a part of her childhood at Archduchess Margaret, where she was put by her father when he acknowledged her intelligence at the age of 12. From there, she moved to the household of Mary Tudor, who was married to Louis XII of France. Anne also had a sister named Mary Boleyn, who was already in the French Queen's as in Mary Tudor's attendance. After the death of Louis, Mary Tudor and Mary Boleyn both returned to England. However, Anne stayed in France for the next 6 years to attend the new French Queen Claude. While she was in France, Anne learned to speak French fluently and developed a taste for French clothes, poetry, and music. Anne also attended the Field of Cloth of Gold, which was a famous meeting between King Henry VIII and the French King Francis I. Anne wasn't the most beautiful woman from her time period. She had a sixth finger on one of her hands, along with a large mole on her neck. Anne returned to England around 1521 to know the details of her first marriage, which was supposed to get annulled with the heir of Ormond, and that was when she started another affair with a rich heir named Henry Percy. A stop was put to the affair by Cardinal Wolsey, which made Anne hate him for the rest of her life. On the other hand, King Henry VIII was having an affair with Anne's older sister Mary Boleyn, but eventually it ended and Anne caught Henry's eye. No one knows where exactly Henry first saw Anne, but within a year he had fallen completely in love with her and was begging for her love and to be his mistress. People eventually started noticing Henry's love for Anne when he started writing letters to her while she was away from court. Henry hated writing letters, but he wrote over 17 love letters to Anne, which are currently at the Vatican Library. Anne's emergence of court began in 1528, and she also showed real interest in religious reform. Along with gaining the hatred of some members of the court, she introduced some of the new ideas to Henry. Debates on Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon's marriage continued, and Anne wanted this to be over as soon as possible so she could marry him. However, in Henry's mind, his marriage to Catherine never existed, so he thought he was free to marry whoever he wanted. As time went on, Anne's and Henry's affair kept growing, and by the end of 1532, Anne became pregnant. That was when they secretly got married to avoid any questions about the legitimacy of the child. On the other hand, the Archbishop officially proclaimed King Henry VIII's and Catherine of Aragon's marriage to be invalid on May 23, 1533. Since Catherine of Aragon was now out of the picture, it was time for Anne to be the new queen, so the plans of her coronation began, and on June 1st, Anne Boleyn was crowned as Queen Anne. Everything took a turn when Anne gave birth to a daughter instead of a son like Henry was hoping. Not being able to give King Henry VIII a son became a threat to Anne's life, and she started seeing Henry favor another woman named Jane Seymour. Anne's enemies at court started using King Henry's attentions to Jane Seymour to plot against Anne. Thomas Cromwell started to bring Anne Boleyn down by making the king sign a document that called for an investigation against her, which resulted in charges of treason. On May 2, 1536, Anne was arrested at Greenwich, being charged for adultery, incest, and plotting murder against the king. Soon enough, Anne was put on trial at the Great Hall of the Tower of London, and about 2,000 people attended her trial. Even though Anne denied all the charges against her, she was still found guilty and sentenced to be either burnt at the stake or beheaded. Shortly before her execution, her marriage to the king was declared invalid. Finally, it was that time when Anne's head was swiftly cut off with just one stroke.